In today's video, I'm just going to talk a bit about how to make sure you achieve progress, shifting all the time, whether that's week to week, month to month, year to year. Most people struggle with this. I've talked to many clients and other people as well. There's always this gap going on where people say, I go to the gym, but I haven't had much progress here, or I've been going for a year, but I don't notice much difference. So we've got this gap between people going and doing something and staying consistent, which is the first problem. And then second of all, we have this issue with change, like why is nothing changing? The most common error I always see, and it drives me mad because I have to talk to clients all the time about it, is recording what you're doing. What you can measure, you can change. Now, we don't have to go all about muscles and kilos because that's also not necessarily the most important thing for everyone, and we have other things that we can measure. But progressive overload, this is so important, and most people would be achieving so much more if they understood this principle. Progressive overload is just taking you progressively from where you are now and what you're doing and adding a bit more each time. So by recording everything you're doing, it means you can see what you're doing on a table. You can slowly just add and increase whatever variable you need to, or change anything for that matter, to increase what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be linear necessarily. It's fine if that floats about a bit as well, but the average goes up. The same with in weight loss. The average usually goes down, but it's okay if there are little bumps and peaks. It's not a problem. So consistency, getting that in the bag, actually booking your sessions in, doing them, making sure you're actually ticking off consistency of doing them. Then we need to add progressive overload. Week to week is normally the case, as you're going to be repeating sessions. So that's where it fails for many people. This is the sticking point. Let's take you're going to do some squats and you say, okay, my starting point, for the sake of being really easy, is I've got 50 kilos on a bar and I'm going to do 10 squats for 3 sets. A very standard, simple way that people might approach this. You don't just have to add reps. You don't just have to add series. We've also got weights as well. But then that sounds simple. But then why is it so hard? What I find is that most people actually end up doing this, instead of doing a fluctuation but still going upwards over time, they end up doing this. They're just going flat, because what happens is, on a day when we feel great, we pump up loads and we do loads, and then the next time we're not feeling so good, so we do a bit less, and we end up actually just doing more and less, and there's just this straight line through it, because we get injured, or we go through injury cycles of pushing hard and we get injured, and we're wondering why. Why is that injury happening? Why is this progress not happening? And it's because we're either doing too much too hard, or not pushing enough to get on the right rhythm. So how do we get this progressive overload so we actually improve constantly without injuring ourselves? Key concepts here are going to be your minimum viable dose. What's the smallest thing that you can change to make sure that from your previous session to this session now, you're actually making that change. Simply just adding a little kilo on the bar. It could be focusing on the intent and the intensity that you can push with your mind. Now, without getting into Jedis, it's not quite that. It's more about neural drive and your intent on movement, because this is another element which is a whole separate topic to talk about. But intent on the movement, like what you're thinking about, how hard you're pushing, your effort, that makes a difference too. So it's okay to write down on your sheets going, you know what, this session was 6 out of 10. I just didn't have the energy, didn't feel good. And next week you can say, do exactly the same thing, but your energy might be different. That's okay too. So it can be the smallest thing to shift the average to where you want it to go. So remember, we're looking for not just consistency in going to the gym or however you train, but we're also looking for progressive overload and objectively knowing your progress, and then adding your intention to what you are doing. And that's actually going to shift you in a direction. And I've seen this countless of times on lots of clients' tables when we actually record this, and you see the shift from week 1 across into week 4, 5, 6, and you suddenly see it starting to really change. And in the beginning, it feels a bit potentially even dull. You know, well, I don't think there's much changing here. It's like, there really is once you see it. But in a world where we all like to have everything here and now and super fast, it can seem a bit frustrating. But I can promise you, in 4 to 6 weeks, most people's numbers are changing rapidly. Weight or size or force, whatever it might be, or feeling, which is a really important one. Feeling, actual, how is the movement going? You might be able to advance your movement that you choose to do for the pattern that you're doing. Okay. So that's how we actually get past this big barrier hurdle of not seeing progress year on year and always saying, I go to the gym, but, or I don't see progress. This program doesn't work, because most people aren't necessarily following the program. They're not creating the overload to progress through, or potentially creating it in the wrong way, going too hard or too little potentially. So stay confident in yourself. Try something that shifts the needle by the 1% and keep the intention and the motivation to keep going forwards.